So you're only getting 21% oxygen.
Wow. Okay.
All right. The rest of what's made up in the atmosphere is like carbon dioxide,
Yeah.
carbon monoxide. So you're only actually breathing in 21%. All right. As you get older, as you get the lung issues, your chest, your lungs are not able to separate those carbons out of your oxygen. Okay. That's where we can bring this machine in here. Okay. So this machine right here's job is to get all those extra carbons and all those extra things out of the air and get you that pure oxygen. All right, makes it easier so you don't have to do it yourself. Now, fire is a lot like us. It only likes oxygen. Okay, it doesn't like all those extra carbons and stuff. In order to make fire, you got to have three things. You got to have oxygen. You got to have heat. Some kind of heat. It can be a spark, it could be static electricity, it could be anything.
Right.
Okay, any kind of heat. And that's all you need. And then you need fuel. So you gotta have oxygen, heat, and fuel. So if I turn around and I hold this thing up here and you can feel, crank that up so you can feel it. There you go. You can feel that oxygen coming out of there?
Yep.
All right. So if I hold this lighter up to this thing, what do you think is gonna happen?
I ain't got no fuel, so nothing.
Okay, so let's see. You're right. I got no fuel, so
Right.
nothing's going to happen. It's just heat and oxygen. I need some kind of fuel.
That's the fuel.
I got some fuel right here. So let's see what happens if I add a little bit of fuel to this thing. If I can get this wet wood working.
Ooh. Yeah.
There
Wow.
we go. That's
And
wet,
it's so easy too.
that's wet wood, by the way.
Wow. Look at that. Wow.
So what's happening right now is this pure oxygen is blowing away all those carbon dioxides, carbon monoxides, and everything like that. So it's giving the fire exactly what it wants. It just wants that oxygen.
This what you was talking about last time, as in we leave those on. If the bed, we bring it up and it make that static. The
That
bed
little bit
is
of
the
static,
fuel.
That little bit of fuel.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to show you that demonstration here in a minute. But I mean, even look at that. That's
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
You
Look
think?
at that. Look at that. Wow.
It even
All it,
reignited.
takes,
Yeah.
all it takes is a little bit of heat because it's getting exactly what it wants. That
Wow.
oxygen. Bam.
That's hot. What a
And it's
marshmallow.
super hot. I mean, this is a temperature in which it can literally devour. Look at that! I've already
Yeah.
parked through that piece
Yeah,
of wood.
look at that. Wow. That's crazy.
Dang.
That's wild.
And it don't take anything to light it back up either. You know,
Dang.
that's how, because the fire loves oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we're going to bring this a little bit more home to a little bit something more like what we actually do.
Hold on.
Okay. I just cooled off the tip.
Okay.
So I can hook up our nasal cavity thing, or whatever you guys know the fancy name for this.
Cannula.
Cannula?
Cannula.
Okay, whatever. It's a big fancy thing. All right. So we talked about what fire likes, right? So right now we're producing oxygen. The other thing we need is fuel, and guess what this rubber hose is?
Fuel.
Fuel. So what are we lacking?
Heat.
Heat.
Heat. All we need is heat. So literally, we have already got the oxygen, the fuel. This thing's already primed and ready. All it needs is a spark.
Yeah, literally.
How many times do we see these things where we've taken them off the residence and just laid them on the ground and then left this thing running all the time? We can't do that, you know, because all you need is a
A
spark,
little spark.
and this thing's going up. I'm going to actually bring this thing all the way down to 0.5. How many of our residents are actually on half a liter?
Nobody.
Not a dang one of them.
Not a
We're going to
single
run it at half a liter and see what this thing does. Now, when I light this thing, and it will catch fire, trust me, do not breathe in the fumes. The fumes of this freaking rubber hose are extremely toxic.
Yeah.
So don't try not to breathe them. If that cloud starts heading towards you, hold your breath. Yeah. And get out of the cloud. Okay. All right, so let's see what happens.
Look at that.
Just a little spark.
And then imagine if that goes
And
to
look
the
at
whole
that
machine.
thing running through that thing. Now this
Yeah.
is only at 0.5 liters. So this is only at 0.5 liters. So let's bring it up to where our residents are normally at.
All right, come on, Janice. No way.
Cool.
No way. No.
Look at that sucker run.
Look at that. I'm scared pointing at me. So I'm gonna come out that
All right. So how do we, now we got a fire. So how do we put this fire out real quick? Let's
Turn it
off the
off.
oxygen.
Yeah,
Get
that's
the
depriving of
off.
oxygen.
Yeah.
So we turned off the main oxygen, which brought that fire down to something a little bit more manageable. But we still got a fire. Why do we still have a fire?
Because of the heat
Still
and the
has,
fuel.
it still has
Because
fuel.
we still have 21% oxygen in our normal
Yeah, in the
air.
air,
Yep.
yeah.
So it's still catching fire. So, but these are really easy to put out. You simply put a little bit of water on that, and it'll put it right out.
And then
Or
imagine
we could
if
use
something
we could use a
happened
fire
and
extinguisher.
the fire go all the way into the machine and it just,
Boom.
But
that's crazy.
This is how I prevent that from happening. 'Cause
Yeah.
there ain't no fuel.
Right,
I'm
the
actually
metal.
separating it, and that's how we're keeping
Yeah.
ourselves safe. Now, if that flame would have got down into here, it could have kept on going, but then I would have simply turned off the oxygen.
Yeah.
All right. So we did have some safeties in place to help prevent us, but you saw how easy that went up.
I don't like
Remember,
that.
right next to our beds, when we lay these things on the ground, those little motors in there all have sparks. Every time that motor engages, it sets out a little spark. The heaters in those rooms, those enough said. What about the static electricity that's on your bodies? All you need is a little spark, and this thing's gone because we've already got the fuel and the O2. All we need is a spark.
I don't like that. That's a good demonstration.
So
That is.
That was
when you
fun.
see
Yeah.
these things running and they're not hooked to a person, what do you think we should do?
Turn it off.
Turn it
like
off.
I do.
Turn the dang things off. We don't need them on.
The first time you said it could catch fire, I ain't played since then. Turn it off. Turn it off.
So now you
turn
can
it
see
off.
how severe that fire is.
Yeah.
That fire is so hot, it could literally burn right through muscle and tissue, right to your bone in seconds. So
Wow. That was a
that
good
concludes my demonstration.
Woo!
And my final demonstration.
No, that was